Welcome to our first Child Hope International quarterly update. I'm Amanda Magnuson, the U.S. Director of Operations. We're excited to try this on Zoom, a new to us platform, but be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and sign up for our newsletter as well, which you can do at www.childhope.org. Would you mind doing me a favor and just putting in the chat your name and where you're listening from tonight? We'd love to get a better feel for who's in the audience. I'm going to go over quick housekeeping items. The meeting should be just shy of an hour tonight. We've dedicated the last 15 minutes to question and answer time. Please use the Q&A or the chat function to ask your questions at any point, and we'll do our best to get them answered by the end of the meeting. You should all be on mute right now, which will help cut back on background noises and audio issues. We're recording the video tonight so that we can present it to a wider audience. But because of that, you'll notice that we're refraining from using specific details about a child or a family for privacy protection. Tonight, we'll be giving a brief update on the Reeves move from Haiti to Florida. We'll hear about how Child Hope is handling COVID. We also have a social worker on the call who will walk us through the process of reunification, which is the main part of our Family Hope program. We're also extremely excited to use this opportunity to launch family sponsorship. Please join me in a prayer to open our time together. Father God, we come to you this hour, asking for your blessing as we are gathered together. Take what we have prepared and multiply our efforts as only you can. May all of the highlights and updates we share have a single purpose, which is to bring you glory. We know that without you, none of this work in Haiti would be possible. We thank you for the staff supporting this ministry and the many supporters who responded to the call in James 1:27 to care for orphans and widows in their distress. Please make this hour edifying and encouraging to those in attendance. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Spencer Reeves, our Executive Director. Spencer?
Thanks, Amanda. It's so cool to see all these people joining us tonight from literally all over the country. I'm in my COVID office here in our home in Pensacola, Florida, but Amanda's going to be doing a lot tonight on this Zoom, and we appreciate the grace. This is our first go at it, as she mentioned, but we hope to use this platform moving forward to provide updates and reconnect you guys to the ground in a different way. So we're excited about it. I wanted to dive right in and share a family update from us. In March of this year, our family relocated from Port-au-Prince, Haiti to Pensacola, Florida. After 7.5 years living in Haiti, Risa and I realized that we needed some time that we could reassess and really get into a different season if we were going to continue doing this work. If you guys have followed Haiti, you know that the challenges that we've encountered over the last 3 years, from social disruption, political, economic issues, and in addition to that, our staff, all of us are going through a difficult time in Haiti. But for us and our family in this time of life, we really needed to come back stateside. And in addition to that, we've settled in Florida, close to Risa's family. We have an opportunity to be near her father and her family here as he suffered a major stroke last year. So that was one of the reasons we chose Gulf Breeze, Pensacola area. With the organization, I've accepted a role as executive director, which will help me really continue doing what I was doing on the ground in Haiti. I'll be managing the staff from here as of right now, in addition to that, it'll allow me to network and connect with foundations and donors, and most importantly, work with Amanda strategically in our programs. And I'm excited about that. Overall, we maybe some of you might be thinking, how is that going to be managed on the ground in Haiti? Like, if the director's not there, what will that look like? And I can answer that by really saying that Haiti has prepared us for this moment. Over the last 3 years, I evacuated twice, or my family did. We had major disruption where we were in shelter-in-place scenarios for 1 week, maybe 2 weeks at a time, but on a weekly basis, roads were cut off, and our staff was encouraged to work independently within a team setting. So, and they have done far and above that. We continue to have strong communication on the ground, and we use WhatsApp and video chat, and it's exciting to see how we've adapted and continue to do this important work that we're excited about. So with that being said, our board of directors, along with the ministry in whole, for a long time has wanted to establish leadership on the ground. And I'm proud of the leaders that we do have that are there. Joelle as director of the home, overseeing the kids, and the rest of our office team is doing an excellent job. But we will in the next year potentially be looking at a country director to fill that role and allow us to work more here stateside. So I want to thank everybody that's prayed. It was, we planned for a June transition for our family, which was accelerated because of the COVID crisis. When countries started closing globally their borders and flights, we decided to accelerate our move, and we came and landed in a kind of a lockdown scenario within the States, which was unique. But we've found a home. We're settling. Our kids are enjoying some of the new freedoms they have living here in the States, and I feel like we're in a good spot. So I want to thank everybody who's prayed and walked with us and supported us through that, especially the board. This started a long time ago, and we prayed through it, and they've been a tremendous support. So I thank the board as well. Well, I want to give you a quick update on COVID, and then begin talking about our programs. And like Amanda said, we'll end with some questions and answers. But in March, when Haiti, the week after we flew back to the States, Haiti decided to follow the same approach as many countries: lock the borders, close the borders, encourage social distancing, asked all churches and schools to halt and stop. And so we had to rewrite some policy. We had to change the way we did some. We actually furloughed some staff so that we could address whatever was coming. And the pandemic itself has passed through the country. The medical officials within the government and the leaders within the government have said that we've crossed over the peak in Haiti. But as you know, this thing is getting new information every week, it seems like. However, our kids and staff have remained safe and healthy. We haven't had any cases internally within the organization, and we are so thankful and grateful for that. Obviously, we increased hand washing and the entrance and exit of individuals. We took it very seriously, but God has watched over us, and we're thankful for that. That's a photo of them. They actually were able to start school this week, which is really neat. And they've been creating masks in light of the COVID as well, and with the sewing stuff there in the house. But as we transition into our programs, I want to preface the conversation around our programs. I want to preface it with what's happening globally, what we're seeing happen globally, as well as nationally in Haiti. And this will give kind of a landscape. I hope it gives some context to the direction Child Hope is going as an organization, but also give you the idea of what's happening in this global context of orphanages and family-based care. In December of 2019, so roughly 9 months ago, the United Nations Security Council adopted a resolution within the rights of the child. The rights of the child is a document used by nations to protect children within their countries. Many nations go far beyond this document in their efforts to protect children, but we know that it's critical to have an outline, a structure in which a society approaches how they view children and how they protect children. And this new resolution, this is an additional resolution to this document, basically made it a goal to end orphanages globally and replace them with family-based care. And it's important because many of the countries that are remaining in have orphanages are ones that are faced with extreme poverty, and we see this across the board. And so nationally, we looked at, well, what is Haiti doing and has been doing? About 2 years ago, they began the process of a self-audit. How many orphanages do we have? How many kids are in these institutions? And what does the landscape look in Haiti? Child Protection Services has held this, but this was the first time that they published this and released it as a press release. And what they discovered is they have 750 orphanages and over 35,000 children within these homes. And what they did is they said, look, we look like we're in caring for orphanages in our country, but all the data and science, as well as the global movement, is saying we need to get these kids back into families. And they adopted a slogan that's Une famille pour chaque petit monde, or one family for every child. And that's been a critical step that the government's taken in this process. Now, I just gave you a bunch of numbers of how many orphanages and kids, but the most crucial number that I think about at night is 80%. I want you, if you're listening, wherever you see this video, just say the words 80%. 80% of these children in orphanages have family. They have families usually that are close by. And in addition to that, there's, we find uncles and mothers and fathers and cousins, and but kids a generation of children are growing up in institution and aging out, not knowing who their family is. Another number that I just read about, and it talks about how much money is coming in to fund these orphanages. And it's estimated that $300 million comes into the country annually to provide resource and support for these homes. And so I'm mentioning that because it's critical in this movement to support kids back into families. The money is in place to do this, and I think there's a huge opportunity. So that's the landscape. Science, scripture, science, and governments are seeing that this is the most ideal situation is for a child to be in a family. I don't think anybody would argue with that. And that's where I think Child Hope has really positioned ourselves. 3 years ago, we launched this Family Hope program, just hoping to find some family. We had no idea those numbers. We didn't know there was an assessment going on. We just knew that some of these kids had families, and as advocates for the children, as overseers, we wanted to facilitate these relationships. So that was really the curiosity, that we wanted to find them and see if God could do something amazing. Well, when this data came out, we could actually confirm it, because we've got currently we have 19 children in our home. We've got a 96% rate of children having been reconnected with their families. That means that we've searched for family, we've discovered family, and we've begun the process of reconciling. 5 of these families have already been reunified. I mean, 5 children within Child Hope are now living back with their families, and we've changed our model support and care for them. And we're in a process now of aftercare where we're monitoring them on a monthly basis. And we have currently in our operations, we've got 5 graduates that are in our Future Hope program. These are kids either that have left Child Hope or have aged out and are now in our graduate program, the Future Hope program. It helps with preparing them for the outside world, continuing education for many of the older kids that aren't finished with school, that they continue in that. And so we're excited about that. We're excited about how God has really positioned us to continue this work of reunification. Now tonight, we asked one of our social workers on the ground to join us. Her name is Ketty Lorval. She's one of our critical pieces to our team. She has a degree in social work from the State University. She's worked with women and girls who've been victims of violence. She worked for an organization that helped children that were getting out of the state penitentiary to be reunified back to their homes. And so she's been a great help to the work we're doing. And I'd like to welcome Ketty. Ketty, are you there? We're having some difficulty. She wasn't able to have power tonight, but I think we were going to try it, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out. We're going to go ahead and launch a pre-recorded video that we have. Amanda, do you want to send that? Hi, Ketty. Welcome.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Ketty, would you mind sharing why you became a social worker?
As a social worker, I've worked with children in conflict with the law. They're locked up in a half house. The conditions inside the center are not different from a prison. Some of them have been sentenced to more than 10 years of confinement. It was so sad. So I wanted to do something else, like working in the prevention of the situations. I wanted to try to do my part and help with the children not know this kind of place. And here I am at Child Hope for the protection of children's rights. And my satisfaction comes down to the happiness, joy, and hope that we bring to families.
Great. Ketty, share with me what it takes to reunify a child. What does the process look like?
The process of family reunification, it comprises of several steps. First, we do family tracing. Family tracing requires going out to try to find more family history. This sometimes means taking a bus ride from Port-au-Prince across the country to follow leads. We meet as many family members as possible: parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and other siblings. Basically, we are building the family tree. In these meetings, I often find out more information about why a child was placed in an orphanage at the first place. Many families truly believe the child will have a better life in the orphanage, and giving the child up comes at a great personal sacrifice. And most families we meet with are interested in seeing the children back, and very often to desire to have the child in their home. Usually, the reunification process takes about 6 months after family tracing is complete. During that time, Child Hopes completes several assessments, which consist of identifying the needs of the family and the psychological assessment of the family. These assessments are required by the Haitian government and meet international standards as well. Parents or caregivers are led through parenting classes that highlights God's design for family and parenting. There are several meetings that take place between children and families. The first type of visit is at the orphanage under the supervision of our staff. We have several of these visits before taking the child to the family's house for afternoon visits, again supervised by staff. The final type of visit is an extended overnight stay with the family. Once all this is complete, we feel the family is ready, we reunify the child with the family.
Thank you, Ketty. Yeah, one of the most important pieces to this is the family tracing. Just finding the family. And when you do this, you find the rest of the family. You find cousins and uncles and brothers, and you might find family closer to the institution of the child. And why this is so important is because we uncover the entry story. What happened in that moment? Why did you need to give up your child to the orphanage? And what we're learning is that this is all poverty based. Most of the families, when we make contact with them, they're interested in the child, like you mentioned. They are interested in that relationship. They want to have a relationship with the child. It's not just the abandonment or neglect. It was just they don't have a vision because of the poverty. And so, well, Ketty, what happens if the family seems like they're not interested, or they might not be a good placement?
Sometimes after finding a parent, we feel it will not be in the best interest for the child to live with that parent. This could be for a number of reasons. Whatever the reasons, as long as the parent is not abusive, we still try to encourage a relationship. We are not always able to reunify, but we do always work toward reconciliation.
Right. That was one of our values as we entered into this, that we would always be working towards reconciliation, because there's been lost time, and sometimes the family's not suitable, or the family member is not capable of caring for the child, and obviously we wouldn't do that placement, but we're always working towards reconciliation. What about the kids that are out there that don't have a family member, or if we cannot find family, like we just don't know their story of origin, we don't know where to start, 10 million people in Haiti, like what happens then?
In this case, we will not give up on the child or abandon the child. We will network with other organizations that can provide services such as foster care. An example of this is Bethany Global. Bethany works closely with Child Protective Services to train family for foster care and respite care. Child Hope is continually strengthening partnership with other organizations so we can provide wraparound care to children and families.
Great. Yeah, we've been really impressed by Bethany Global and how they've kind of tilled the soil. They've dug into the government to partner with them. We've learned a lot from them and watched them as they prepare families, and they are kind of spearheading a foster care program with the government. So it's our goal to get this child into a family regardless. So, well, Ketty, after you place a child back into a family, what does the reunification, what does follow-up look like after reunification?
We check on the family regularly. We make announce visit. We are monitoring the food and nutrition, sheltering care, protection, health, including mental health and education. During these visits, we give the family resources. Due to COVID, we have purchased some funds from some families to make sure we can stay in touch even if we are unable to visit in person. We plan to graduate family after 2 years on our program, launching them into independence.
Great. Yeah, we're monitoring those 5 or 6 items, the food, nutrition, shelter, care, protection, health. And what's great is we're also offering psychological care, mental health care, to both to the families and the children. Well, explain to us why we plan to graduate families after 2 years.
And we're trying to help families become independent and self-sustainable. The first 2 years after reunification are the most critical. And this is the time the family needs more support. However, our goal is to have the head of household develop a business plan and find a source of revenue rather can support the family. We believe we can help family with this plan in 2 years. And after a family graduate, we will continue to pay for medical care and education and of children until they turn 18.
That's great. Yeah, we want the families to walk with God in this. We want them to be independent. We want to empower them. We don't want to create dependency. And so in our program, we have a timeline we're working off of in our aftercare, and the families know it, and we do our best to resource them during this time. Ketty, thank you so much for being on the call.
Thank you.
We appreciate your work and everything you're doing to help reconcile families in Haiti. Thanks, Amanda. I hope you guys enjoyed that. As we were hoping that she could be live tonight with us, but you know, Haiti and power and all those complications. But I want to share, I hope you got a glimpse of the reunification process that we do with each family. And each family is totally unique and different. And it has different requirements, different resources are needed, different things come up that we need to address and work through. But I want to share one story. It's a brief picture, and if a picture could show 1,000 words, it's kind of, it's one like this. Amanda, if you could show this picture. We're not going to use first names tonight, but this girl came into the home at a young age, and she was pretty sick. She had breathing and asthma and close to pneumonia. Over time, she got better, and the connection with the family was lost. In 2017, we were able, through our family tracing, we were able to locate mom and a stepfather, as well as 2 brothers. And this next slide, this was one of the first meetings where mom could visit this girl. And we were in the process of doing family photos, and they came, and you can see she's somewhat starstruck, but, or I mean, just kind of stunned, not starstruck, stunned of being away from her daughter for so long. And we uncovered the backstory that she was very ill at the time as well, and then recovered, but didn't know that she could connect with this child. After finding them, the reunification actually went quicker than most. She had a desire to be with her daughter, and likewise. So this next photo is actually 1 year later, and this family is thriving. The child has continued. We've relocated her to a new school near the house where their family lives, and we've done regular follow-ups. She's helping in the garden with her family, and we were able to resource the mom into an income generating activity where she takes produce from the mountains and brings them down to the city and sells. we also invited her to be a supplier of food and produce for Child Hope, for our residential home. And I just get excited about the opportunity that's in front of us as we move forward. Tonight we are officially launching our sponsorship, our family sponsorship program. You guys are familiar with our child sponsorship over the years, and now this is just an opportunity for greater impact. And as we go to this next level, we need to have support come around the families. These are some photos of the families that we're working with in reunifications. But a family sponsorship will cover obviously the social work and pastoral care and psychological care that's needed in these relationships. It'll also cover the ongoing education for the child, healthcare. Sometimes we need to cover rent in order to try to stabilize the family for the first year, as well as food, and then miscellaneous things come up, either emergencies or transportation's needed for school. So we've estimated about $450 a month will help support a family in this program. And we're really looking to increase, you know, our givers. That's 10 people at $45 a month, and we can reunify a family. And remember that 80% number, that these kids are in institutions, and we have a huge opportunity in front of us. And I hope that you guys will continue with us, and thanks for coming tonight. I know I'm going to wrap that up. We're going to open up some question and answer. I think a few questions have come through, and I'll answer those the best of my ability. But yeah, Amanda.
Thanks, Spencer. Yeah, thanks for that. Just taking a quick look at our questions. One of them is, this is a great question. Thanks, David. What will the work look like in 5 years? Will Child Hope be an organization that helps more children be reunified with their families, and partnering with more orphanages, or transition this model, or something else? Great.
Thanks for the question, David. In 5 years, we hope that we would have reunified the 19 children in our care. We're currently working with the government in the process of positioning our organization as one that reunifies kids back to families. The Child Protection Services is very open to the help in that. We had a meeting with them recently where they said we've got 10 homes that we need to close because of multiple infractions and scenarios, but it was over 300 children. And so we will partner closely with the government, maybe through a memorandum of understanding. And we want to connect with orphanages that want to say, hey, you guys made the change to finding families and helping kids get back with their families. How do you do that? We want to be a resource to that. But inevitably, we will phase out the orphanage that we've ran for 15 years. We will phase that out and be a team of support that goes in and helps either organizations change their model of care, or
it looks like we just lost Spencer. I'm going to give him a second to try and reconnect, but we did have another question that came in. Will the orphanage be closing? Spencer was just touching on that. Yeah, the idea is that we'll be able to provide more impact if we're doing family reunification. So while our numbers at the orphanage, I think in our height, we're over 40, maybe even over 50, and we're down to 19 now, we are going to continue in that trend and continue the reunification without accepting new children in. But then we will begin to work with other orphanages, as Spencer was just addressing. Spencer, you there?
Yeah, I'm back on. I apologize.
No worries. Great.
Yeah,
Another question that came in, when will we be able to bring teams back to Haiti?
Great question. I don't have the answer of when. Haiti has been in a season where it hasn't been safe to host groups. But Child Hope over the year has been so impacted by groups in positive ways. Many of you came on a trip and got to see the ministry that way, and we're thankful for the foundation that's given us. But really, we will be doing, if we get back to hosting groups, it'll really be specific. It'll be around the programs, the potential to have impact and help families reunify. So we most likely we won't be hosting teams to come through the orphanage. Absolutely, we will not be doing that. A lot of these kids do have early childhood trauma from separation from their families, and when you have groups coming and going a lot, it exacerbates that trauma, and really plays out later in life with their ability to attach in healthy relationships. So as far as teams, I don't know when we would host groups, and if we did, Haiti would have to be not at level 4 as it is right now by the State Department, and it would be specifically focused around the programs and how they're impacting families. So,
let me see. I just had a chat question come through. Where did it go? Would you mind offering a little more about your personal family update, the ages of the kids, activities, education levels, and will you be traveling within the States anytime soon? Now, I know we're recording this for a larger audience, so if that's something that you're not comfortable kind of broadcasting, at your own comfort level with that, but a couple more details.
yeah, the kids are, I've got one turning 14, Asher, and Keziah's going to be turning 12 in October, and Salem's almost 10 in October. So they're doing well. They're excited about the thought of going to a new school, meeting new friends. They've enjoyed, I mean, Salem gets to ride his bike to go fishing. He's like, enjoyed that. But yeah, they're doing well. Risa's in a transition season supporting her family, and as well as me in the ministry. We talk a lot about things strategically. She's like the most important piece to me in this role, and she's very supportive of it. She's looking into some opportunities for herself, potentially with schooling, and so I think we're getting into a season as a family to dream again into some of those personal things. So thanks for asking.
What happens, we've talked about reunification. Hopefully it's a concept that most of our donor base is a little familiar with now, but what happens if it fails? So a child goes back to home and then, the honeymoon ends and things get a little bit challenging. What do we do then?
Yeah, I'll be honest, this process is messy. So there is always conflict, there's always challenge in the reintegration within the family. But if we're in a situation where we uncover abuse or there's danger to the child, we are first and foremost in child protection. So we will go through the steps that Child Protection Services requires. We will contact them. We will file reports with the government. If necessary, we will use a department within Haiti called BPM. It's the Brigade for Protection of Minors, in order to remove the child from the home. We have a policy in place where we'll go through those steps. There's cultural stuff. What it really comes down to is there detrimental behavior to the child. How do we go through that? How do we think through those situations? And I lean on the social workers, but also we interview the family, and we lean on the government as guidance as well. I think really quick, Amanda, and we won't leave the child. We will set up respite care, either with us if we need to, or through the local church, or obviously placement back into a family of foster care is preferred. So.
Right, those partnerships that we had talked about earlier, Bethany, but others on the ground as well. I know there's Rafa House and several others that we're working on strengthening partnerships with. That would be if we no longer have our own home, our own orphanage, that we would be able to partner with those to find safe, loving homes for those kids, if that's necessary.
Solutions. Yep.
I've had 2 questions come in that are kind of similar. What are the level of resources and overall costs still going out? How does that forecasted budget for the next few years change? And then, like, kind of along those same lines would be, do we need more funding for social workers?
Yeah, it's been a tricky balance of as we transition kids back into homes. How do we support the family while we still have continuing operations of home and fuel and vehicles and 24-hour power, batteries, food for 19 kids? So we've actually increased over the last 3 years our budget in order to begin that work. We've also received some grant money and grant aid in that, and we'll continue to search for foundations that are interested in family first, and we'll continue to search and fundraise in that aspect. But as children are reunified, we're able to scale back the work that we're doing. So I mentioned we currently have 1 home right now. Earlier in the spring, due to reunifications, we were able to release the boys' home, and now we've set up the boys and girls on separate levels with separation in the home and support around them, including our office. And so we'll continue to do a reduction that way to help fund ministry. And this is why we're launching our family sponsorship, because we want to grow our footprint. We want to grow the ability for more social workers that can take the gospel with them, can take biblical reconciliation, can take and find families and help be a bridge for families to come back together. So.
And one thing that I think is important to note is it's expensive to care for children in an orphanage because you have to provide 24/7 staff. So our estimates are that it's about $750 per child in an orphanage, and we're per month, and we're talking about reducing that to $450 per month if a child is reunified back into a family. And that covers everything. That covers the social work, that covers the psychological, mental health care, and that covers pastoral care. So those are 3 staff positions that we'd be filling, a caseload for each staff member with children, and then all the other things that we've addressed already, income generating activities, rent, and food, and different things like that. Speaking of income generating activities, can you explain kind of what that looks like in Haiti? How do people make an income? How is this going to be sustainable?
Yeah, I think it's important when you think about Haiti, you have to kind of take your Western lens and set it aside and look at the people and say, how are you surviving? How do you make ends meet? Unemployment from an actual job is one thing. Unemployment's through the roof in Haiti, but people are working. They are surviving. They are doing odd jobs here and there. They're buying and selling, and for each family, it's different. Many of the families that we've come around are doing exactly that. They're selling on the street. they walk around. They're called marchands, and they're either selling produce or clothing or spices. So we try to come alongside the family and take what they're already doing and try to breathe life into it. Hey, have you thought about doing this? Can we increase this? What would it mean to you in this? Would you like to take some business training courses? And for one of the children in the South, we were able to connect them to a program that started them out with money, and they started their business, and they went through the program while they're working their business, and they pay back that month on a monthly, or that amount on a monthly basis, to just get it again. Once they paid it all back, they get it again for their business, and it's going really well. So a lot of micro business, but every scenario is different. We really need to look at the assessment, strategize, look at our networks, our partnerships, and see how we can encourage them and empower them.
What are the biggest challenges in transitioning to this model of care? And I feel like that's a pretty big, loaded question. But any way you can boil that down to, just kind of a succinct, what are the biggest challenges in going from institutional care to family-based care?
In institutional care, we have the ability to try to structure the home and staff the people and keep the kids in line as much as possible. We know that doesn't happen. We have it gets challenging, but as we enter into family-based care, it's messy. You're very quickly confronted with the effects of poverty. We're connected with loss of life. Family members die. That's been a challenge due to poverty, not enough resource. And these are scenarios where a child has never had a connection with the family. We make a connection, and one of their family members passes away. And now this child gets to connect with their family through a memorial service and a loss. And those things are really challenging for me. And you just see the injustice in Haiti. And so those things we're up against, and we're constantly looking for things that will impact the family negatively due to poverty. So
yeah,
I hope that makes sense.
It does. It definitely. Poverty seems like one of the main issues in Haiti. I think the trauma would probably be the secondary challenge, is navigating that. I read a statistic recently, I don't remember where it was from, but there's 100 or something like that psychologists in Haiti. We've got one. We've got somebody who her full-time job is the psychology and mental health of the children and families that we work with. And I think that is an area that anybody who's been in institutional care is going to experience that. And any parent that has to make the decision to relinquish their child is going to have guilt and fear and things like that. So working through some of that mental health issue that comes along with it. I'm almost out of questions, so if anybody has anything else they want to pop in the Q&A or in the chat, feel free to do so now. We're kind of winding down on time, so hope to get to one, maybe two or three more. The next question I had kind of takes a pivot to our Future Hope program. What are the total numbers of children throughout the years, including graduates, and do we know how those over 18 are doing? Well, right off the top, I'm just going to answer for you, Spencer. I think we've had over 70 children pass through the orphanage. We used to also have the feeding program. We had other programs as well. But if you're just talking about who lived at the home, we've had over 70 kids. We've impacted that many lives. Again, with family reunification, we have potential to impact even more. So we're really excited to step into that work. But can you share a little bit about what Child Hope is doing for graduates?
Yeah, this is one of the challenges anybody with an orphanage has when kids age out. How adjust in society and really thrive. And so we try to get them into a stable living scenario first when they do that. After that, and even way before that, we're working with them to build your resume, to make your plan. What are your life goals? Dreaming sessions, like we're really working hard with them. We have a full-time person that does that with them and helps them get ready. Actually, this month we're going to see 5 of our children age out this month, and all of them are going to be moving back into their families on graduation, which is great, because that's been one of the challenges, is that at 18, a lot of our kids' stories we couldn't find family, and they're we have to transition them to independent living. But the program is always open to graduates. We have a learning center that we invite them to, hey, come and use it if you need to do research for school. In our program, we're continuing their education, and we want to go as far as they're willing to go. So if they finish high school and want to keep going to college, we'll make that leap with them. We'll bring it to our donor base. We'll say, hey, this is what's happening. And we've had good response in that, but we've also had challenges that come their way, or they choose to not go to school anymore. And so it's a toss-up, because we're offering what we can to them, but that's not always what they want. And a lot of times we won't just give them money, and a lot of times they reach out to donors for support. But if they want to try to network into jobs, we'll coach them, we'll encourage them. They can use our resources. We'll try to network them into internships. But it's one of the challenges, definitely.
That's a good point. Yeah, we do have graduates who have in the past reached out to donors and things like that. We just have the ability to provide the accountability. So, a child or a graduate who is going to school, well, we're actually on the ground and we're following up with their school, and we're getting report cards and making sure they're doing well. And they might have to leave our program if they're not performing. There's always an open door for them to come back and bring a new angle with us of, okay, that, school wasn't for me, and now I'm interested in this. And like you said, we'll network. We will do what we can to utilize our networking on the ground to help in any way that we can. But it's not a handout. It's really, you need to demonstrate that you're in it, and we'll support you.
Yeah. We look at trade schools. We look at a lot of those types of continuing education are better fitted, I would say, for a lot of the grads, but it's got to be a two-way street. And so we really work hard to try to get them ready, get them mentally prepared for this transition, but they won't ever know until they're in it. And it's actually the period of time where they grow the most. We see the most growth in them. We have one person who we've reunified with their family, and they are continuing their internship right now to date. So, and it's a paid internship, so it's a job. But
Spencer, when are you going back to Haiti?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're watching. It looks like maybe this fall in September or October. I'm kind of watching what's happening on the ground, but it looks like possibly September.
Last question I have, how has the economic impact of COVID-19 affected CHI's finances? And I guess I can speak to that because I kind of do a lot more of the accounting data entry stuff. Yeah, we've seen a couple of donors that have had to step away because of job loss and things like that. And then competition for grants has been really challenging, I would say. Overall, our supporter base has been faithful. We can't thank you guys enough. In all honesty, so many of you have been with us since 2010, since before then, since the Maniceros took the leap of faith in 2004. And we thank you so much for that. This year, like I said, we've seen some people drop off, but overall our base has been strong and that has sustained us. We have started to look to other funding sources like grant writing and things like that, and it's been more of a challenge because there are a lot of other organizations who are also in places of need looking for support right now. So that's how I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Spence.
Yeah, no, I took that question the wrong way, but I was thinking on the ground in Haiti and how it's impacted Child Hope.
Well, yeah, why don't you answer that?
Yeah, even with COVID, we've seen more inflation. I don't know if some of you may remember or you visited, but it used to be $40 to the good back in 2012. Right now, Haiti's at 125 goods to the dollar. So the inflation continues to rise. When I left in March, it was around 90 goods to the dollar. So it's really jumped, and a lot of that is partly due to COVID and the ongoing political and economic crisis.
Well, I want to be cognizant of time. It's been an hour. So if anybody has to jump off, we really appreciate you being with us. I did have another question come in, and it's an awesome one. So we're going to take this and keep rolling. But if anybody has to jump off, we appreciate you for joining us tonight. David's question was, are bigger NGOs looking at any sub-partners, or are those some of the ones you're applying for as well?
Yeah. Amanda and I have been on multiple calls with larger NGOs, and we're assessing what are they doing in country. We've approached CRS and Bethany, and it's exciting because they're looking for partners as well. They're looking for good solutions. They're sharing information. I think some of our aftercare follow-up assessment tools have come from some of the NGOs that have used them in Africa during the HIV, monitoring families and kids. And so we're seeing a pretty good response in terms of that. A lot of NGOs have left Haiti because of the crisis, the challenges that came politically over the last 3 years. But we'll continue to network with them and develop those relationships. Thanks, David.
Great. Well, I think that's it for this evening. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We look forward to doing more of these types of updates in the future. If you had a question that somehow I missed it or we didn't quite answer it, please send an email to communications@childhope.org. We really do appreciate getting questions and going more in depth. I'm sure you could get Spencer and I on the phone for another hour apiece too, because we love talking about the work. So yeah, please do send emails if there's anything. We'll be sending a follow-up email with a recording of tonight's video in the next few days in case you missed something, or if you'd like to share it with friends. We'll also be sending some more information about our family sponsorship program at that time. So again, many thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of your week.